Okay, I think we can start. Hello everyone, and today we are going to start with the review of the knowledge check. So we'll go through the key points we had there, and so maybe I'll just go through these points one by one. Okay, so first of all, there's the question: what is the function of common language runtime? So, and yeah, of course, that's the compilation of IL, which means intermediate language, and that's good for code. So that was just directly from the presentations we had. So then the second point was also, if I'm not mistaken, most of you answered correctly. So it's object-oriented. Basically, I would say C# maybe the most object-oriented programming language, since all the variables, all the data is stored as the objects. So starting at the integer and finishing with the custom classes we create, all these types are the objects in C#. So it's definitely object-oriented. Second point is maybe not really, could not maybe be really clear for some of you, but this means type safe. So it's preventing some issues with the type, like we try to do the operations which are not acceptable for some types, like for example you can subtract the numbers, the integers, decimals, doubles, and so on, but you cannot do it with strings and for example strings, and then all these issues will then be detected by compiler. Compiler will say you that this is not correct, and the program will not be compiled and of course cannot execute again. So second, and C# is multi-threaded. So we have not talked about threads yet, but so multi-threads means that we can run the program in multiple threads. So on practice, it simply means that there is one program, so you can simply run the code into two separate parts, or two or more separate parts, and then each code will then be executed separately, so separate from each other. And in C# there is such possibility, so it's not single-threaded, it's multi-threaded. And so low level, I would say it's mostly about the functionality. C# is high level. Second point is about the comments, and so here we should be precise what kind of slashes we use. So we use just a simple slashes to comment the line of code. Then we use I would say the section of the comments. So the start of the section and the end of the section means that everything what is inside this section is considered as the comments. So then of course we cannot the slashes on the opposite side, and semicolon means that we finish the executable statement, and it's not related to the comments. This is used as escape character. Remember, we can use these as the escape characters. Then this one was the question with the most mistakes. What is the purpose of using directive? And in C# there are two purposes of it. So first we provide basically both of them are related to the shortcuts to the namespace. So maybe let me just for you to show for you, so you are clear with this. console application. As usually, I will create demo for today and add it to the demo solution we have. Okay, yes, so let's do activity 4. Hold on, yeah. So just in case you want to add to the activity, or so to the current solution, then you need to open it. And let me rerun my Visual Studio. So we can open. Okay, so almost there. Maybe close some applications. So to make it faster, let's yes, yeah. So let me create schema for today. Some more applications. Okay. So then let's looks like Visual Studio is lagging a little bit. Why did it break me? Oh, come on. So we need to restart again. So it goes a little bit slow and crazy. So let's try again. Okay, so let's open it. Let's try to create it again. Okay, almost done. And let's add the new project to the solution. Okay, so now finally here, and let's add it to the current solution. Okay, so finally. Okay. So regarding using directive, so we have two ways of using it. So first of all, and they both are, I would say, pretty much the same. First of all, we add the namespace to that we want to use. So it means that, let's say, I say that I would use for example, input. No, let's use collections as an example. Let's see what we're doing. So let's say we want to use collections. So it means that I have the classes from collections namespace available. So this is the namespace defined by system, and it means that I can use the classes defined under this namespace. Okay, so otherwise, if I don't use this namespace, what I need to do is I need to provide a full namespace, systems collection, then errors. Yeah, to access them. So it basically means that if we provide the namespace, then the classes from these namespaces we define here can be used directly inside the code without prefixing them with corresponding namespace. So this is the first usage, and so this was, I guess that was clear for most of you. So this is to provide a shortcut to namespace. And yeah, so then these two were confusing to you. So to organize collection of classes, we actually have nothing to organize using the namespaces. But what we can actually do is to create an alias. And how does it look like? We haven't used it before, but there is such option that, let's say, I create an alias, and then I say that it equals maybe system. So here I can provide any class. Okay. So what does this alias mean? It means that I cannot access, for example, from the classes from collections namespace, so I cannot use array list directly. But what can I do? I can use this my alias namespace and then access the class from there. Yes, so it simply means that you provide a shortcut to, we can say that we provide a shortcut to the namespace. Yeah. So let's maybe write it this way. Yeah, so this would be the option how to use the alias, and we do not group the classes or do something similar with using the namespaces. Yeah. So, do you have any questions about using the directive? Is it more clear now? Okay, so then I hope it's better now. Okay, let's move on then. So for the next one, that was, I would say, a little bit logical task, where you had to simply combine but concatenate two strings, and since you see we have one string, we have another string, and then the concatenation of two strings is obviously 13 or 12. Then so 12. One we concatenate character 1. Actually, in this case, we concatenate string 1 and string 2, and the concatenation would be 1 and 2, 12. Yeah? So this, I would say, I hope it was also clear for you. Yeah, so if we deal with strings, then the operation works this way. Today we'll talk about the overloading of the operators. Yeah, so we'll see how this works. And yeah, that will be next topic. So next one is yeah, we're assuming that two variables are integers, and then we simply check the valid statement, and of course this one is valid since here we compare two integers and we get true or false results, which is true or false. Of course this is not in C#. I guess that this would be correct in maybe Visual Basic, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it was a long time ago, I developed in Visual Basic, but yeah, I guess in Visual Basic this would be correct syntax, and in similar languages, yeah, maybe if then else would be correct, but not in C#. In C# we use the brackets instead of then. Yeah. So yeah, that's why the second one is not correct, and the third one is also not correct, since we expect the Boolean value to be provided inside the if statement. So it means that if statement only accepts true or false. If we compare two integers or two values, then we get true or false result. If we add or concatenate two values, then we don't get true or false result. So that's why this one is also not correct. Okay, have any questions about this, let me know. Then the next one was, I would say, a little bit logical, since you had to follow the sequence of the operations what happen here. So let's say that we have x, which is 5, and then we need to think about what happens after the following operation. So first of all, we have post increment. Remember that post increment means that we first of all do the operation at first, and then the incrementing is done at last. Okay, so this is the last thing done. So it means that first we assign the value. So it means that first we assign the value x to y. So it means that y is 5. Yeah, and then we increment x. Then we increment x, and then x is 6, but y is still 5. Yes, since we pass.
I don't hear you.
Yes, the same thing.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you for noticing, because my phone was ringing. I declined, and actually, and then the microphone muted here. Yes, so thank you for letting me know. And just in case it happens again, let me know immediately. It means that my phone is ringing, and yeah, that's why my headphones are also connected to my phone, and this is why the Google Meet muted. Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, so let's go back to this example. Yeah, so here, remember, we have post increment. So it means that first we will do the operation, and then second we do the incrementing. Yeah, so here it means first it assigns 5 to y, and then increments x. So it means that x is 6 after this operation, and y is still 5. Okay. So that's why the first one is not correct. Second one is, here we have prefix increment. So it means that firstly it increments x. So it means that after the first operation we increment x. X is 6. Yeah, and then we do the assignment. So it means that we assign 6 to y. It means that y is 6 and x is also 6. Yeah, so at this point x, and after this operation, x and y, they both are 6. Okay. That's why it's not 5, so it's not correct as well. Next one is decrement. And so it is also a prefix increment. So it means that again, this is the first operation done. It means that x is 4 now. Then we assign 4 to y. It means that x is 4 and y is also 4. So it means that y is not 5. This one is not correct. Then the next one, again, basically next one is what I just described. Previous example, x is 4 and y is 4, so it means that this one is correct. Okay. So, do we have the questions about it? Okay, so here we have to follow the sequence of operations. Okay, next one is which of the following are keywords in C#. So go to and CBR are the keywords. Local and branch are simply not the keywords. We don't have. These are the terms. Yeah, the terms we can apply to the elements in C#, but these are not the keywords. Okay. So. Then the next one is which of the following is true about nullable value types. Yeah, first of all, these can be assigned to null, so A is definitely correct. And the second one is has value properties are used to test of null and for null and to retrieve the value of nullable type. Yeah, this is absolutely correct. So A and B, they both are correct, and system nullable data, it actually it actually cannot something. I guess we have this yeah, we don't even have such. Yeah, we don't even have such methods, right? Yeah. So, of course, this is then correct. Yeah, by the way, as you asked last time, let me zoom the screen, because I assume that it's a little bit zoomed out for you. So let me zoom it. Okay, hope it's better now. Okay. So let's go back. But that's why the answer and B is correct. As I just explained. Okay, so let's then move on. Next one is about definition of the arrays, and first two are not correct. Since in C# we must put the brackets after the date type. Yeah, so it means that we cannot do it the same way as we could do in Java, for example. So here we need to define the brackets first, so then only C and D can be correct, and then yeah, so here we see that the difference is how we separate the values in the array, and on the definition it should be comma, not semicolon. So that's why C is correct one. Okay, so next one is which of the following is legally a right declaration. So double and float, these are the types, so this is correct, and yeah, for strings, as I said, we need to put the brackets after the date type. That's why B is not correct, and for D is also not correct, since we just need to use square brackets, not round brackets here. So we use round brackets when we call the methods. Yeah, in this case we don't call the method. So that's why A and C are valid options. So for the next one, which of these C# types are reference data types? It's strings and arrays, the structures and characters, these are the value types. Yeah. So strings, because basically the arrays are the objects, the objects to reference this, and strings, as we know, strings are also the arrays. They are special arrays, but they are still the arrays, so it simply means that if the arrays are the objects, then the strings are the objects as well. Okay. So they both are based on references. And characters and structures, these are the value types. Okay, the next one is about the identifiers. About identifiers. So this is how we name the variable, or how we name the method or class or something like that. So then we can use underscore, underscores to define the variables. We can use we cannot use number at the beginning, at start, and we cannot also use the minus sign. But we can use escape characters. And escape character is @ we can use @ to escape the naming, to escape the keyword in the naming. So that's why A and C are correct. Okay, maybe I will tell about the theoretical questions a little bit later. So first of all, then here is the question: what is the what is the name of the exception class we need to use to catch all the exceptions in C#? And this is exception class. There's no X, there's no exceptional, and so we can use E or X or similar to define the variable type we use as exception, because exceptions, they are all the classes. Remember this. And it means that also all the exceptions are the objects. So when the exception is raised, it actually creates a new object. So that's why exception is the only correct type here. Okay, and then let's quickly go through the theoretical questions, the difference between pass by value and pass by reference. I explained, we talked about this thing quite a lot, I would say. So the difference is that when we pass by value to the method, then then actually the program creates a new variable. So it means that the value, you simply pass the value to the method, not the variable. And when you pass by reference, it means that you pass the whole variable inside the method. So it means that if we do any actions with this variable inside the method, then it will be reflected. The changes will be reflected on this variable you passed to the method. So these are the differences. And that's why it's called pass by value. Means that I take the variable, I take the value from it, I put it to the method, and then the method creates a new variable. Then it takes this value and then uses it inside. And when I pass by reference, I simply put the whole variable inside, and then I basically, let's say, I take it back. So this is why it's called pass by reference. Okay, then next one is where the date type for the variable declared BR comes from. So the data type comes from the, let's say, right side. When we assign something from right side to left side, then the variable, the value, the variable type, data type, is then taken from the, I usually call it source variable. So then the type will be taken from there. Okay, this is for VR. What is the, so that was what we just talked about. What is the main purpose of encapsulation concept in programming? So at first we start from the name. It means that we want to hide something inside. We want to take something like global, and then to put some data inside and restrict the access to this data as well. So this is the encapsulation. We usually achieve it using using the object oriented programming, using the access modifiers, so we restrict the access to the data inside the objects. Okay, and the last one is how can the factory methods be declared? So it means that you must have the static method. Usually you can have static method, or you can also have non-static method, but the concept is that you should have a separate method which then returns the objects, new objects. Yeah. So that's why it's called factory method. So as the factory, it produces something. So factory methods produce the objects. Yeah. So this is practically it. Do you have any questions about it? Yeah, I'm sure what happens with my Word documents. So do you have any questions? Okay, then it's fine. I guess my Word is... Okay, then it's fine. Next one is about your home task. Next home task, which we talked about on Saturday. That's activity 4, and there were let's say not lots of questions, but a lot of misunderstanding about the store array. And so first of all, sorry. The idea is that you should not change this absolute clause. Yeah? So we should not normally change it, and the key concern from your side was the concerns were about this private attribute store array. So you should not change it to protected or public. It should stay as it is, and basically because you don't need to access it. So what you have, you have the virtual method, which is is it it was defined as public, if I'm not mistaken, or it was defined as protected. Let me get the original code. Just to be sure, let me quickly check, get the original code. It's public. It's public, and you basically see what does this method do. So this is public virtual t this method, so it simply means that you can access the array simply this way. Okay, so let's create the subclass, or no, so I have to create a subclass, and so the name of the class was array store, if I'm not mistaken. Let me double check. That should be array store. And the namespace should be the same, so should follow it. You should follow it. And we had to
excuse me, a question. But can we create this class inside this subtract array store namespace under?
Sorry.
In this namespace substruct array store, is an additional class under this namespace.
You mean in the same file? Yeah, you can use the same file. Yeah, that would be fine. But in practice, as I mentioned once, it's usually better to create separate files, just in case. In case usually how it happens. So in case you need to change something inside your application, so it means that you need to touch the file, and like let's say if everything is touched inside one file, so it may make a little bit
that's
difference.
clear. But for this activity, it is possible.
Yeah. But it's possible. It's possible. If you want, you can use the same file. Yeah, that's correct. That's fine. There are no restrictions on this. Okay, so let's then inherit. Yeah, so I will maybe not implement it now, but yeah, the question from you was how to. Let's for example take a look on add method. Public override add. Right. Yeah, so the question was how to access to the array, and the answer is simply, for example, if you want, you can access it this way. I need to return something. Yeah, so this method is just dummy code, but actually this is the way how you can access this array. Yeah, so remember that if you if you implement the virtual method with this, and you provide and you implement it this way, so if you actually use indexer, that means that you can get the corresponding element using the index, and basically you see here you have the implementation which can access the element of the array. Yeah, so it basically accesses this array, yeah, so which is private. And I was at first a bit confused that the method is public. Yeah, so you have protected setter. Yeah, so that makes clear, and it means that you can only set the value from the subclass. Yeah, so we have this protected set. Yeah, again, using this indexer, you can access basically this method. Yeah, it simply accesses this particular getter and setter, and so you see that it accesses directly the array. That's why I can use this. I can use this because this method is public, so the method is overridden. It means that this particular method is inherited. Yeah? If this method is public or protected, it means that I can access it from the subclass. Yeah? That's why I use this option, and I can access this method, and this method actually accesses this array. Yeah? So this is what I was talking about. Everything is inherited. Yeah, everything is inherited, also the private attributes. At some cases, like in this case, you don't have the direct access to this array, yeah, this private attribute, but on the other hand, as you see here, you don't actually need it. You don't actually need to access this array directly. You have this method which simply does everything for you, and then this is basically the concept of superclasses, and also the concept of abstract classes. You have the implementation of the method. Yeah, so this implementation does everything what you need. Yeah, so it means that if this class is extended, like in this case, then this method will be there, and you can simply reuse it. Yeah. So that's why it is defined as private, because there is no actual need to touch it from the subclass. You can easily access this method. It throws access this these getters and setters, and they will basically do everything what you need. Yeah. So this is the point. And one more addition. You see that, as you just said, is it has protected setter, so it means that you can only set the value from the subclass, which is also all you need. Yeah? You don't need to set it from the actually you have the setters here, which are you have the setters here which are add and remove it, and all the methods you need to implement in the subclass, so these all will be there. Yeah? So do you have any questions? So don't need to change the access modifier. It is private. This is nothing that's...
I had a quick question regarding this. So basically, because we also had this, we were thinking about this private to turn to public, but basically, if you use this, this understands that it is this from store array. Do I understand?
This means that you access the current object. So this is the first point. So this means you access the current object.
Okay.
So and then you simply provide the indexer. So you
Yeah.
provide the indexer, and if you use the indexer, then it directly means that you access indexer method, which is defined this way, using the brackets, then the index. So then you simply point out that you access this these getters and setters. This getters and setters. This block of
Okay,
code.
thank you.
Yeah, so in case you have more questions, you can ask. So, but that was confusing points for most of you. That's why we have to discuss it here today. Okay, then if this is clear, then I hope you can proceed with this task further. And in case you have any questions, then you can reach me, and we can also discuss during the next sessions. Okay, then we are good now, and okay, then we are good. We can quickly move through the recap of the previous session. So a moment, let me open the presentation so we can shortly go through the key points we had last Saturday. So a moment, let me open the presentation. We talked about the abstract classes and interfaces. So we had several points. Basically, first of all, the abstract class, remember, it is the same class as all the other classes with, I would say, two exceptions. First of all, it cannot be instantiated, so it means that you cannot create the object from the abstract class. So let's say we have the abstract class here. So this is my class, or this is the class, my class, or something similar. You cannot instantiate it. So you cannot say that my object will be. You can define the type. Data type would be correct. You can use this data type still, but you cannot create the object. You cannot create the object from the abstract class. Okay, you cannot instantiate it. So this is the first point, and I would say maybe this is the key point, since it comes from the name. Abstract class means that this is only the abstraction, but not the something real. This is the first point, and the second point is that it can have the abstract methods. So it means that these are the methods without the implementation. Okay, so let's say that would be public abstract my methods or something like that, and then it's simply there's void return type. So the pattern of the signature should be the rules for the signature, for the namings, are the same as for usual methods. And so again, no changes here. The only difference is we have the abstract keyword here, so that's the first difference. And second difference is that it has no implementation as we usually have. Yeah, so if we have the call inside or just empty method, this is also the implementation, and this means that this is the implementation of the method is implemented. Abstract classes are not implemented and they should not be implemented. Yeah, so basically, yeah, these two are the only differences compared to other classes. Apart from that, there are no differences for the abstract classes. Oh no, the third difference is, yeah, of course, as we discussed last time, abstract classes cannot be sealed classes. This also makes sense because of basically of the usage of the abstract classes. Otherwise, if the abstract class is defined as sealed, it simply means that there is no reason why we use abstract class. Because but this only from the point of sense, but from the characteristics point of view, there are two main differences. It cannot be instantiated. It can have abstract methods. Apart from that, no other differences. All the same rules as we have for the usual classes. And abstract classes can be used as the superclasses. And that's why we do not define them as sealed. And if the abstract class is used as a superclass, it means that we must implement all the abstract classes in the subclass, which if subclass is usual class, because in practice one abstract class can inherit from another subclass. Let's say it can inherit from the abstract class. Yeah, and in this case we don't need to let's say don't need to implement the abstract method from the superclass. Yeah, so because this is the abstract class as well. And so for the abstract classes we don't need to implement abstract methods. On the other hand, we can do it. Why not? Public overrides voids my method. Yeah, and then we can implement them in the abstract class. Yeah, so abstract classes can also implement the methods which are defined as abstract in the superclasses. Yeah, so again, as I said, all the same rules as for the usual classes. If we have the method, so one more point again. Remember that all the abstract methods are virtual methods by definition, just simply because otherwise, same as for sealed, there is no reason to use them, because if the method is not defined as virtual, we cannot override it in a subclass, and it doesn't make sense for abstract methods, since we define the method which is not implemented, we expect it to be implemented in a subclass, and if the method is not virtual, then it's actually not possible, so it doesn't make sense. That's why all the abstract methods are virtual methods by default, so we can override them in the subclasses. Yeah, so that's why this is the point for the abstract methods. Like for the abstract classes, again, as I said, all the same rules as for the usual classes, and it means that we can override the methods also in the abstract classes. So the rules are the same. Okay. So this is the point. We use abstract classes to define the structure, to point out that the class is not final. Yeah, by the way, also, so the class is not final. we point out to the programmers, to those who use our code, or also for us. If we develop the application, then this is just the good pattern, the best, the part of best practices. What we use because we make our code clean. Otherwise, let's say that we have the situation when we have the class where we expect, like, let's say something general, something on the top. We have the methods, we define the methods, and then we expect these methods to be implemented in the subclasses and not in the current class. So otherwise, if we don't have abstract methods, then we simply need to write empty methods. So that would be public voids by empty methods. So if we don't use abstract methods, then we simply need to, in such case, we need to write empty methods, which of course they do not look well. Instead of this, we use abstract classes, we use abstract methods to make our code clean and more understandable. That's why abstract classes are needed. So this is what we were talking about last time. And so to achieve the abstraction, we have two ways of doing it. So these are the abstract classes, and another option would be the interfaces. So for the interfaces, we can achieve the abstraction starting at 0%, means that we have no abstract methods, to 100%, which means that we have all the methods defined as abstract. So we can select if we want some methods to be abstract or non-abstract. So it means that we can provide a definition for them. On the other hand, we have the interfaces, and the interfaces are 100% abstract. So it means that interfaces only have the methods. So we can't define the attributes there, only the methods, and all the methods are public by default, so we don't need to provide any access modifiers to them. This is first, and they all are abstract, means that they don't have any, and then cannot have any implementation. So this is what the interfaces are about. And comparing to the inheritance, so for the classes, since you already know that we can extend only one class from the superclass, and we cannot have multiple inheritance from the classes. And to achieve multiple inheritance, so if we want to inherit from multiple places, then we need to use interfaces, and we can actually inherit from multiple, we can implement multiple interfaces at once. So this is the reason why sometimes we may need to use interfaces. So that would be the point, and the key advantage is that we can use multiple inheritance. We can make multiple combinations for interfaces, abstract classes, and visual classes. So we are more flexible from the combining them points of view. So we can combine all these elements, multiple elements together. So this was about the interfaces. And so there's another option, we can use sealed class. Again, as I said, abstract class cannot be sealed class, because sealed class means that it is final class, it is not we cannot inherit from sealed class, and this basically is the opposite of abstract class, since abstract class is something abstract, yes, so this is the abstraction, which means that this is some kind of only the template of the class, not the real class. We can say that that's not the real class, but sealed class actually means that this is the last stage of class, this is the final class. It cannot be extended, and so yeah, that's the opposite side of the abstract class. Yeah, so this is what we were talking about last time. I hope that these points are clear for you. Do you have any questions about what we discussed on Saturday? Okay, so if there are no questions, then we can move on to the next topic, and maybe let's do it after 10 minutes break. Okay, so then let's meet at 19:37. Okay, let's have 10 minutes break. Okay, let's continue. Let's let me quickly check. Recording is still ongoing. Just to see if everything is fine. Yeah. So everything is fine. So audio input is also in place. So it's good. Then let's continue. So today we will cover one topic, and then we also get one. Work on one small practical task. So yeah, in previously we talked about the overloading, and we know that we can overload the methods. Yeah, we can overload the methods defined in the superclass. However, there is one more option of overloading, and this option is about overloading the operators. So it means that we can overload the simple operators we have, like plus, minus, not equals, and so on. Yeah. So it means that we can overload these operators, and remember that these operators, they work differently on different object types. Like plus works like simply addition for the for numbers, yeah, and plus works as concatenation for the strings. Okay, so and in this point you see that the operator actually means different things, right? Because if it is addition, then it is one operation, and it is concatenation, this is absolutely different operation, and they are not related to each other. Yeah, they are different operations. And it simply means that for different objects, there's different meaning of these operators, different logic, and also different functionality, right? So, and in fact, so let's say if you declare a new type, yeah, a new class, so then we can actually define the overload the operator for these classes. Okay, so the class you defined. That's why there is such option, and there are the operators which can be, you see them on screen, which can be overridden, and then there are the operators which cannot be. And yeah, so and or cannot be, but they are evaluated using and or, which can be overloaded. Yeah, the array indexing cannot be overloading, but you can define indexers. Yeah, so this is what you already are familiar with. The cast operator cannot be overloaded, but yeah, you can define conversion operators, and yeah, also some other assignment operators are not cannot be overloaded. So this is what you definitely can't do in C#. Comparing to C++, where if I'm not mistaken, you can also overload the brackets. Yeah, so using of the brackets can be overloaded. I haven't used this, but I heard that it can be done in C++. Okay, so yeah, imagine you can overload the meaning of the brackets. That would be strange a little bit. And yeah, also in C++, it is possible to overload the assignment operator. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, it is possible. But in C# it is not possible because, and the reason is quite simple, because in C# all the data types are, all the variables, all the values are objects, and when you do the assignment, it always means that you assign the references. Yeah, like if you have the variable, then you assign the value from the right side, from the source place. Then you basically don't pass the just something like value. You always pass the reference. If it's the reference to the object, reference to the value. So that's why assignment operator cannot be overloaded because it should always assign the reference. So that's why it is not possible. So there are some guidelines. For example, we need to define operators and value types that are logical built in language types, such as decimal structure. You need to provide overloading methods only in the class in which the methods are defined. So this also makes sense. Use the names and signature convention to describe them. So this is as usually. Use operator overloading in class where it is immediately obvious what the result of the operation will be. So don't confuse those who read the code. So this should be straightforward and understandable. And so one important thing is, and we also see today, that the overloading operators should be symmetrical. Like if we have the operator equals, then we should also have the operator not equals. So usually we can define it like the opposite way. So it simply means that if equals returns true, then not equals returns false. And if equals returns false, then not equals returns true. So for this symmetry, it should not be complicated. So on the other hand, actually on practice, and I also seen some comments, usually on practice operator overloading is not really used, and it is not used in lots of languages. So from my experience, I experienced it only in C++ and C#. In other languages, I'm not really sure if it is possible. At least with the languages I worked with, they were never used operator overloading. But so that's why most languages do not support this option. So that's why the requirement is for all types of overload operators to include a secondary method with an appropriate domain-specific name that provides the equivalent functionality. For example, for the strings, we can assign and compare the strings. We can compare the strings using comparison operator. On the other hand, we can also compare the strings using the equals method. Using the equals method, this is what we can do. That's why we have the secondary method. So instead of using the operators, we can achieve the results using the methods like add, for example. That also is possible. Concatenate. A moment for the string. Let's quickly check. What's the string, something like that. Then, if I'm not mistaken, there was the method for addition or concat or something similar. No. Okay, maybe for the string, because there is no separate method for concatenation. Or hold on, no, I guess. Okay, that was insert. So insert can be used instead of assignment operator. Sorry, not assignment, but the concatenation operator. So that's why basically all the operators they can be called from the methods. So integer, let's say a. Then a also has okay, maybe yeah, a does not really have these methods. Yeah, maybe okay, maybe for value types this is not maybe so relevant, but for the objects, like for the strings, sorry, for the reference types, like for the strings, you should see the alternatives to the usual operators. Yeah. So and yeah, so let's then have one small example, so you can see how we can proceed. So let's say that I want to create my own type, and then I want to change concatenation operator. So one moment, assignment. So yeah, concatenation operator. Sorry, one moment. Yeah, so prepared the example this morning. So let me quickly check it. Okay. So let's say that I want to create a special type of string, and that would be quite specific string. So let's say I want to define my own date type. Yeah, let it be string. So what I want to do, I want it to act the same way as string, but with one exception. Let's say that I want to use concatenation operation differently. So if concatenation is done for the strings in the way that we simply add one string to another at the end, so let's say that here we want to concatenate, like simply merge two strings into one. So it means that the first character is taken from the first string, second character is taken as the first character from the second string, and so on. Yeah, so we just simply merge and concatenate the characters one by one. And so let's try to implement to create such string. So let's then do it, and then the first we need to think about where and how we store the value. So there are several options. So maybe let's store yeah, so let's say we can store the value as string, or we can store the value as a set of characters. So maybe let's, just to make it simple, let's store the value globally as string, and I define it read only because I don't want it to be changed. So the same as it usually as it is done for the strings. Yep. So, and then I can, so to make it more closer to string, let's say that I want to create indexer method. Yeah, so then I provide the type, provide the index, and here, the same as for the strings, I can access my string by the corresponding index, and then return the character. So then let's say I can define getters and setters. So for get, that would be that I check the index. So if index, so the usual check I need to do, check if the index is positive and index is not greater than the length of the string. So, and that's usually what I need to check. Sorry, not the string. Oh, sorry, index, of course. Index should not be greater than the and the length of the string. In this case, we can throw the exception index out of range. Okay, and then setter. Oh, yeah, sorry, I need to return. And so if everything is correct, that I can return the corresponding comment from the string. And I don't define setter because you know that strings are read-only. Strings cannot be changed as the objects. Okay, then let's say that we want to initialize our string, our object. So to do it, so the only way I can do it is the constructor, because again I cannot overload assignment operator, as I just said. It's not possible in C#. That's why I can only assign the value using the constructor. And so that's why I do it this way, and since it's read-only, it means that I can only assign the value from the constructor. And this is the only way I can do it. Okay, so that now means that when I create my special string, yeah, then I only at that point I can assign the value. Okay, this is done, and so the next step would be that, as I said, let's overload our assignment of, not assignment, let's overload our concatenation operator. So then I should write public static, and then I should write the returning type, what should be returned from the concatenation method. So in this case, I need to say that I overload concatenation. Overload this plus operator, and there are some rules. For example, I cannot say that I overload operator for a string. For example, let's say that I want to overload this, say override, more precise, operator for strings, for two strings. That's not possible, and it will complain. At least one type should be actually your custom type. Yeah, you cannot overload it for generic types. Like, the generics. It's not. It's a different term. Technical types. Yeah. So default generic. I'm not sure what's the best term here. I usually use generic, but yeah, generics is something different. Generics is these D types. I hope you understand. This is the default types defined in C#. So I cannot overload the assignment operator for them. That's why I can only do it for my custom types. Okay, so that's why. That's just for your information. It cannot be done, and then I can do it for my custom types, and that will be correct. Yeah, at the end, of course, I need to return my string. So I need to return the value, and at this point I want to, let's say, merge the string. So for example, that would be like if I have let's say that would be ABCD plus EFGH. Then at the result I want to make it AEFCG DH. Yeah, so I want to make this result. And in case the right side is shorter, so then that would be this way. So just in case the right side is shorter, then I just simply can use the space instead. Or empty character. Let's say that I want to use empty character. Yeah, so let's then proceed this way. And yeah, so here we still need to work with the strings. And but on the other hand, what we can do? On the other hand, we can work with the. We can actually work. Yeah, we can use string builder as an option. That means, but I think maybe let's talk about string builders and string builder autovator. So right now, let's maybe make it simple. Let's use the character, the array of characters. So the result, and then I can define this new array of characters, and then the size would be the concatenation of two size. Still one. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, one more thing. I want to display my string as usual string. So what I need to do then, I need to override to string method. Yeah. And then I can return the string there. Yeah. So that's why I can then display it as toString, and then I have the current string. Yeah. So, and then I need to sum them both. So this will be my returning type. And yeah, now let's merge. Let's merge them all. So then it simply means that I need to go through all the. Yeah, so let's start with I plus 0. I is less than 2 at this point. And yeah, at this point, if we use the array, then we need to calculate. Okay, maybe at this point, that would be easier if I introduce you the string builder. Moment, I think. Well, that won't be easy. One moment, what do you think? No, maybe let's start with this. Okay, then I should be less than the length of the, I can say, results length. And then I increment I. And so yeah, I need to then switch in between them. I need to start with the left side and then switch to the right. So then let's do it. And then I can define boolean variable, and then check out what I need to use as the current one. So let's say we start with the left. That should be true. If the left is false, then we use right string. So then let's say if left is true, then I actually that would be let me think about it. Moment. Okay. One moment. Okay. Then we can do it. We can do it easier way. We can say we go through all the characters of first string, and then we assign the values. Okay, maybe let's use string builder. Let's use string builder because that would be more interesting and also for you. So what are the string builders? So maybe here a small remark. So you all know that the strings are not mutable. So it means that when you create the string it stays the same and it cannot be changed as the object. Yeah. So the reference of the string is created, and every time you want to, let's say, take off some characters or add new characters or concatenate, you always create a new string. Yeah. That's why from memory point of view and from performance point of view, this is not really effective. Like, let's say that you want to concatenate or change the string in loop. Okay, so let's say you have lots of a string with lots of characters. You go through all the characters, you change the string, and of course if you change the string in loop, this may hit the performance, hit the memory, and this is not really good. So as an alternative to solve such problems, we can use string builders. So string builder is a part of system text. System text namespace, and it allows us to easier to work with the strings easier. So that's why I can use it, and this is the class. This is the class, and then I can create string builder from here. So I simply create it as a new object. So by default it's just an empty string, and then I can add more values, more characters to this object, and this will be more efficient if I simply do it directly with the strings. So then let's proceed, and then I can let's say I start with first string. So then I start with the first string, I get the length, and I increment it. So then I append it. I append it to my object, my string builder, and I take the current index. Append. Sorry, I guess I forgot append. Yeah, and then I can check if the string, the second string, is greater than the current length, then I can add the current character from the second string. So that I use string builder, I use append, and I use that and second, the character from the second string. So this is in case the web string is, like, I go through all the elements from the web string. But on the other side, we can have a situation when the web string is smaller than the right string. So in this case, we need to continue our loop. The loop should continue at the length and until the length is greater than smaller than the length of the second string. Yeah. So. Yeah. In this case we then need to simply append the element from the second string. And that will be it. And at the end we finish building of our string. So using string builder, we build the string. It usually means we can concatenate multiple elements into string, and then at the end, once the string is constructed, we can basically return it as a string. And remember that we need to return my string, so it means that I need to define a new object. That would be my string, and here I provide my build string, which is string builder. That would be to string. Okay, so now I overloaded plus assign the plus operator, and then let's say I want to compare the strings. I want to compare the strings, my strings. So to compare, I simply can use the usual comparison. Operator comparison, then I can compare to my strings, and the idea would be the same as for the string, because otherwise if we don't use this, then it will compare the references, not the strings actually. Yeah. So that's why we need to do it, and then I simply can do the following thing. I can compare two strings. I can compare these two strings. Yeah, and it asks us to define the opposite operator, and then the opposite one would be, there are basically two options. So I guess the easiest option would be that I simply do the following thing. Then I guess we can simply define the opposite one. That would be the not, and I can then use equals operator. Then I can simply use the opposite one. So that would be the opposite one. I'm not really sure what can be the cases when this one is different from that, but why not? And so then this is done, and what else we can do? I guess that would be it. Yeah, I guess it now, it shows the error, not the error with the warning. It says that it's better if we also implement equals and get hash. So implement equals operator, then we can then overwrite equals operator, and then here I need to compare. See that I can compare it to the object, and basically what can I do if object is, if it is my string, then I can simply return the same what I have here, and else I can return false, for example. And because if I want to compare my string to any other object, that won't be correct. So I define it this way and get hash. Get my string for its object first. Yeah, of course. Yeah, this may be not. This is not correct. I can do the constant then. So now it's good, and then the last one is get hash. Overwrite. And then I can simply use the base class, and now we have no warnings there. Okay, so then let's check the results. Let's check the results. So let's say I define, yeah, unfortunately I cannot override the assignment operator, that's why I need to use the constructor to pass the string. So let's say I have str1, let's say here, then I create my string. So let's say I have something like this, then I create another string. I have something like this. And then let's see what are the results. So maybe I can do it this way. So then let's say I concatenate these two objects. And let's say I check if they are the same. I think that they are not the same. Okay, so let's run the program. Okay. Yeah, so you see that the concatenation works in the way as we expected. So we have A as the first character, D as the second, B as the third, E as the fourth, and so on. And so we basically merge the string this way. And then of course we check if these two are not the same, then of course it returns true. Okay, so do you have any questions about it? This object, okay, that's a good question. This object, I guess I did not use it. I guess you meant this one. Yeah, I guess you meant this one. This was, yeah. This was not correct because you compare two different times. Here you compare my string to object. In this case, but yeah, actually that's a good point. We can also override this, and then we can also override this operator. Why not? So public static bool. Yeah, because we only define the operator which compares to my strings. We don't have the operator which compares my string to all the objects. Yeah, that's why it shows us this warning. But yeah, we can also, as an addition, we can define such a comparison. Why not? Then that would be operator plus. And then let's say I compare my string do object. I guess I can do it. It's not inherited. And then I can check. Basically, I can then write it this way. Okay. Then I can basically write this way, and here it will be. If this is my string, then here I need to do the casting, because at this point, at this moment, I don't have the knowledge about this particular operator. That's why here I need to define it separately. One moment. So, and here I can. Oh no, sorry, not equal. Yeah, equals. Okay, and then here I return. Then I can basically compare this to objects at this point. Yeah, so that was incorrect because I didn't. I am matching return then into opposite one. Okay, we can do it. Yeah, so every time I define equals, I should have also the opposite one. So the opposite one is quite simple usually. Yeah, I can simply compare. Yeah, basically you can define the comparison with any type you want. Yes, so the comparison can be oh yeah, of course. Okay. So yeah, everything's fine. Yeah, basically that was just simply because we didn't have this comparison between my string and object. And again, remember, object is a super class, is the super type for all the types in C#. That's why it can be any type. Yeah, it can be any type. It can be integer, it can be string, it can be my string, whatever you want. Yeah. That's why this is general case and this is a special case. That's why we need to do the casting. Okay, the question from Vienna: why did we need to override equals? Equals we had to override because that was the recommendation in the warning, and the idea is what I said before, that because not all the programming languages allow overload the operators, overload the operators. That's why it is asked. So it's better to do that we override equals method. Yeah. That we override equals method to, yeah, because if we use C# and we call it from other languages, then the operators, then can be some confusion, and it's not always clear for other programming languages how these operators actually are overloaded. Yeah. Okay, this is then about equals and toString. Yeah, for toString it's simply just to show the value. So you see here, if I simply show, for example, so if I simply want to display or access, yeah. So if I want to display my string, then it will be displayed as string. Yeah, it will simply display this this particular value. Sorry, not my string, but the object, of course. And then it will simply be displayed as the string. Yeah, so it will not, because by default, if I don't override to string, it will display the reference, yeah, the address to the reference. But I want to display this object as the string, which is defined here. Okay, so this is one. Do you have any question? Do you have any questions?
Hi, yes, I have a question. Maybe I missed the all point, but in which line exactly is explained that these two strings should be merged, how I call it, from driving
Here.
a car in zipper principle, in which it is that it's not like one string A, B, C, D and just E, F, G, H. Yeah, you get my question. Yeah, in which where we define it.
So it's here. Oh, yeah, by the way, one thing, yeah, so it's defined here. Let's quickly check if, actually, it's not mandatory that we use toString to access the corresponding elements, so maybe I will, and this is because we use indexers. That was one thing, so yeah, instead of toString and then access the element, I can use the indexers this way. So yeah, here we do the merging. Yeah, we overwrote was operator here. This is done here.
So it's basically this for loop is defined it, or
yeah,
exactly.
I mean we go through all the we go through all the characters. You see here. Oh yeah, by the way, I can skip using just toString. That's up to you. Yeah, so I go through all the characters, then I take the character, I append it to the string builder, the object. Then I check if the character from the right side exists. Then I add it to the string. Yeah, if it does not exist, it will not be added. And then if we have the case when the number of the characters from the right string is greater than the number of characters of the left string, then I simply append all the elements from the remaining elements from the right string. Yeah? This is what we do here. Yeah, what else we can improve? Yeah, so this is what we can improve, because we defined the indexers. Okay, so this is what we can do. What else? What else? Oh, okay, maybe we can also, just to not call this toString method, I can define, not this toString, but this toString, I can also define length getter. Yeah, so let's do it. That can be public integer length. And then I define getter. That would be this my string length. So that would be this one. And yeah, setter should not be accessible. Okay, yeah, of course, do close it this way. Yeah, then we can, so that's public, and it's good, so we can then, instead of using toString, I can use length. So that is always possible. And then here. And that's because I defined this one getter here. Yeah, so, and same as here. What else? Where can I change anything? I guess, yeah, now it looks pretty much as as the string. Yeah? So we defined our own string. Only one exception: I cannot assign the string value to my string this way. I cannot say that it should be like this. Yeah, because this is such assignment is only possible for string, so this is generic, what we cannot, unfortunately, we cannot overload. But yeah, so this is the only difference, that we need to provide the string using the constructor. But yeah, so this is maybe not really a practical task, because in practice this may be not really useful, but so just for you to understand, to see the techniques, and that it is also possible to do it. Do you have any questions about it? Okay, I see we missed that one. Any questions? You're welcome.
So as you said, in practice, these overloading operations are not used very often.
Yeah, that's correct. But I guess it depends. It depends where you work. But mostly they're not used nowadays. And this is because nowadays people usually don't. Programmers do not usually stick to one exact programming language. So usually programmers switch in between the languages, and then inside one environment there may be multiple languages used, and basically it is safer, more safe, and more efficient. It's more efficient if instead of the operators there are the methods used. Yeah. So it means that instead of equals, instead of comparison operator, I simply use equals method. Instead of assignment, I use add, for example, method, and something similar. So method calling is more safe and more understandable nowadays than the operators.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Methods instead of overloading of operators.
Yeah. So,
okay, clear. Thank you.
Okay, then the question from Lena, maybe you already explained, but what is the difference between actually this is the operator we just basically just overloaded, we just defined. Yeah, so this is the operator, and here I can define the behavior of this operator. Yeah, so there's one behavior, and then for equals I can define different behavior. Yeah, but usually they are the same, but sometimes the behavior can be different. So that's why it is done this way, and equals is preferred that we also use override equals method, just simply because of what I just said. Because in practice we usually use methods instead of operators. I mean, this is, especially if we work between the languages, then equals is more safe, and I would say maybe it's sometimes also more frequently used. That's why it's usually recommended to define it as well, or override it. Okay, do you have any more questions? Then for you, as a small practice for today, I can give you one task, which I would say it is not only about the method overloading. It's just the additional part here, but maybe for you to make it also interesting, the task would be the following. You will need to implement, let's say, implement the class vector. Yeah, so create your own class vector, which simply does two operations. And it can add one vector to another. I remember in mathematics, if we have one vector, so it would be something like this. Then we add another vector. Then 4. Then the result would be 2 plus 3. Then it would be 3 plus 4. Then it would be 4 plus 6, and then it would be 5 plus 3. Yeah, so that would be the result, and it would be 5, 7, 10, and 8. Yeah, so this would be the sum of vectors. And the second operation, yeah, of course, the minus would be the opposite one. I just simply subtract then the corresponding components. And then let's say we multiply. The multiplication would be simple scalar, we call it scalar multiplication. Then it means that we multiply, then we sum. That would be 2 times 3 plus 3 times 4 plus 4 times 6 plus 5 times 3. Yeah, so I basically multiply each component one by one, and then I sum them all. Okay, so that would be 6 plus 12 plus 24 plus 15 equals 18 plus 39. Right. And then that would be that would be 57. Mistaken. Okay, so yeah, your task right now would be, so just for practice, would be to yeah, maybe let me write it. I can write it here. Create a class which implements the vector and it should have two operations defined. No. So please reload the operators. Oh yeah, also you can also, yeah, also that would be that you compare two vectors. And so compare would be simple, you compare each element one by one. Yeah, so that would be the small task, maybe not really small, yeah, I guess I will need to give you more time than just this evening. So yeah, then no rush for you to start today. You can complete it later, then we can discuss it on most likely Wednesday then, yeah? But yeah, so now please start them. Do you have the questions?
Do we need to hand it in somehow, or?
I would say that's mostly for you. That would be mostly for you. So just to try. You can also use indexers. Yeah, you can store the vectors. Yeah, and I suggest you storing the vectors as the arrays. Yeah, so it means that you can store it as the array. You can use indexer to access the elements of the vector. Yeah, so remember that you can apply multiplication and basically all of these operations you can only apply when the number of the elements of both vectors are the same. Yeah. So you can also check it. Okay, maybe I will. Maybe let's have let's say 5 or 7 minutes break, and then I will be back so you can ask me the questions. Okay, so I'll be back at 8:43, I would say. So maybe 7 minutes. and back. There was the question from Maria. Should numbers and letters be entered from the console, just hard-coded? That's up to you. You can, yeah, if you want to make it more interesting, you can enter from console. Yeah. But that's up to you. That's up to you. No, they can only, yeah, so the question is, do they need to be only positive? No, they can also be negative. That's as all the integers. They can also be decimal. That's not anything at all. They all are integers. So this is up to you what the type for that would be. It's no restrictions, no restrictions. So just in case you have any questions, let me know. Do you have any questions? Okay, good. Also, for example, in case the size of the vectors is not the same, the sizes are not the same, then you can draw the exception, for example. So, okay, maybe not index out of range exception, but if you want, you can also define your own exception. Vectors have different size exception. You can define such exception then. And throw it if the size of vectors sizes are different. Oh, yeah, sorry. So the question is from Mary. Yeah, the question from Mary: how many dimensions must have the vectors? This is up to you to provide. I mean, it should be dynamically. Like if you enter the elements, then like if you enter the elements from console, then your program should find out how many dimensions there are. So this should be detected by program. So if you enter the elements from console, you can enter them as the string, and then, for example, separate at space, or comma, or this is up to you how you want to separate them if you enter them from console. And if you separate them at space, then you can use the method, like if you have a string, then you have the method split, and then you can split the string provided into the array. But remember that this will result into the string array. But since we work with the vectors, mathematical vectors, we work with the numbers. So that's why you need to, you can take the values from this array, which is the array of strings, but then you need to move the values into the numeric array. Okay, then. So if you enter the elements from console, then the size of the array dimensions of the array should be determined dynamically. Okay. to push the code then to GitHub. Okay, do you have any questions? Okay, then looks like there won't be any questions. So then, in case you have any questions, you can reach me. Also, you can reach me until Wednesday as well. So you can